They get transferred to wherever.
And, of course, he's not always the most generous-spirited man.
Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man. Well, yeah, you do, but, look, here's the deal.
Joe is also ready to tell you the hard truths.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
If necessary, though, he'll lie about President Trump the way he lied about Mitt Romney.
Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
But he believes this.
We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
You believe that?
For example, back when they were holding up before Trump got elected, they were holding up the nomination of the president put forward for the Supreme Court. A really fine man.
Helpful media will appear, but it won't be enough to keep Joe focused on where he is.
How many unsafe bridges you still have here in the state of Iowa? And I was just in Ohio because they have more.
And when he's in Vermont, he's in New Hampshire, he's in Vermont.
I'm back. I've been here a number of times. Last time was, I think, all the way back in 2014. But I've been here before that. I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town. This is sort of a scenic, beautiful town. The mayor's been a good guy, and everybody's been really friendly. I like Keene a lot.
But he was in Keene, not Vermont.
I got started out with HBCU, Delaware State. Now, I don't want to hear anything negative about Delaware State here, okay? They're my folks, but all kidding aside, the fact is that HBCUs are in trouble financially.
He got started in a historically back college or university. Not.
I'm told I get criticized by the New Left. I have the most progressive record of anybody running for anybody who would run.
Did you hear that?
I'm told I get criticized by the New Left. I have the most progressive record of anybody running for anybody who would run.
You know, there's things about Joe that we just can't ignore.
We are so close to be able to do some incredible things for this country. Incredible things. I just spoke at Dartmouth on healthcare at the medical school, or not, I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but the people from the medical school were at the...
What you need to know about Joe is...
When you talk about marijuana, everybody said Biden says it's a gateway drug. I don't think it's a gateway drug. I think we should totally decriminalize the use of marijuana, the possession of marijuana.
That Joe knows a lot about drugs.
Play the radio. Make sure make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone.
But mostly he knows about how we got here.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
He knows why we're here.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
That's exactly right.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
One more time.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the